Through an overview of some of the projects I'm going to do here this winter. Got an old Sanyo stereo here. My wife blew out one of the outputs on the amplifier, so there it is right there if you can see it. That's TK 4362. Purchased a new one off of eBay for about $6 or $7. I'm going to give it a try. Really like this particular one just because of the fact that the FM receivers seem to pull in stations a lot better than the newer style do. So I'm going to try and get that operational for next summer. Over here we've got two JAAW, JAAW, just another wideband O2 sensor controls mounted into one case. And as you can see, I used the aluminum case as a heat sink for the LM317 and the LM7805. I've modified this to where I'll have pigtails coming out for each one of the connectors rather than having to cut a hole in the case and try to plug the connector into the case. See how that works out. The leads are a little bit long on the 317 and the 7805, so you might run into some oscillation troubles, but we'll try it out. There's a display for them right there. I'll basically do the same thing with them. Put them in a case with pigtails instead of a plug or a connector. One thing I run into at work every once in a while is I need a 4 to 20 milliamp current source. Well, I'm going to build one this winter at some point. That's a few of the parts right there, but not everything. Up here, starting to breadboard a power supply I'm going to make. I really don't have a good variable voltage power supply that can handle decent current output, so I'm going to remedy that fact. I'm going to use an LM2941 based, probably be 15 to 24 volt supply, variable on the one side, and I'm going to use two LM1084s for the plus or minus 0 to 15 volt on the other end. That should get me a little bit better than what I am now. About all that I really have at the moment is this 5 volt to 3.3 volt switchable supply that I built last winter. Works pretty good, but sometimes I need more than 5 volts. Now, while we're here, there's a proximity switch tester I made last winter. Checks it for an NPN or PNP output, and also checks it for functionality. Sometime I'll do a video on that one. It's pretty simple. Works pretty good. Okay, right here is my 351 Cleveland. Haven't raced in about 4 or 5 years. I built a 347 instead. This thing ran pretty good for what it was. You can see it's still partially together. Stock crank, stock rods, flat top pistons. Those are super heavy Speed Pro pistons. They're about 760 grams each with the pin. This thing ran 660s in the 8th mile. Didn't do too bad, I thought. Ran that for a long time. Only trouble is I had my ignition box mess up on me one day, and about halfway through a run I had about 70 degrees of advance and it split a cylinder wall. Not good. See, right here I got my C4 out of the car. I'm probably going to do a video on redoing that for race use. It's actually pretty durable. I can get about 300 or 400 runs out of this before I got to do too much to it. Not a whole lot you can see on the outside. It just looks like one you pulled out of the junkyard, but there's a few modifications to it. There's two 660 double pumper bodies. Got one I finished about 4 or 5 years ago. Milled the choke tower, poured it out, smoothed everything up real nice. Going to do the same to that one. Probably a little bit later in the winter when it warms up some. Going to put some down leg boosters in them. And if I do put that Cleveland back together, I'm going to have a tunnel ram on it. And these are the carbs that are going to go on it. I'm also going to modify it for adjustable air bleeds as well. Of course, this is hunting season around here, so there's the weapons we've been using. Don't use that Mauser unless I'm out in the field somewhere. I don't get that all beat up. It's going to be a really nice day, but it's kind of a neat gun to hunt with. One of those is a Marlin XL7. The other one's a Mossberg ATR, just cheap guns you can beat around and stand out in the rain and snow and not really care if they get a little bit rusty. And they shoot just as well as I can shoot, so, and just as well as my boy can shoot, so that's good enough. It's an old 22 pistol there. We weren't using that for hunting, but it was just laying here, so I'm going to throw it in there. Well, there's the AFR heads off my 347. That thing didn't run too bad, as you can see on the window of the car. 660s in the 8th. Only trouble is, I had a Chinese crank in it, and things didn't go so well after a while. We'll talk about that maybe in another video. There's a block right there. It didn't really do any damage to the block. It just cranked journal on the rod and the piston, luckily. And that's probably about it. My South Bend lathe, that thing comes in handy. Really like to have a Bridgeport too, if anybody knows where I can get one for a decent price. That would pretty much complete everything I need in here. I've got good welders, good lathe, a lot of good fabrication tools, but I don't have a Bridgeport. So if I have any Bridgeport work, I have to stay after work to do it, and after 10 hours I just don't really like to stay around another 4 or 5 unless I have to. And they kind of frown upon it anymore anyways with the big safety initiative they have. They're afraid I might get hurt off of company time, so it's just not a good idea to use it anymore. So I'm going to have to find some sort of Bridgeport. This up here, that's just a case, just a Reliance electric case, and I built a phase converter. It's kind of a tangled up mess in there, but it's functional. It's actually a rotary converter. Geiler motor just down there, 5-horse, heavy duty motor. All works pretty good. It probably wouldn't work so good if you had CNC control, but works just fine for my 40-year-old lathe. I don't know, that's probably about it for now.